Good evening, everyone. This is the first meeting of the Charter Review Committee. I'm calling the meeting to order at 5:17 p.m. And with us this evening, we have our clerk, Jean Quaglietti, myself, Kathleen Hill. I'm acting tonight as temporary chair in my capacity as I forgot the word now. Jeannie, what's the word I'm saying? I'm on each committee.
Ex officio?
Ex officio on each committee. Bill Fonseca, a former, one of the original writers of the East Long Meadow, Phil Adams, longtime employee police department. Tom Christensen, our deputy DPW director. Larry Levine, our local attorney, one of our local attorneys in town, and also a former member of the Charter Commission. Marilyn Richards from the East Long Meadow Town Council. Jeff Bosworth with us from, is it conservation, Jeff, or historical?
Conservation.
Conservation. Ralph Page, also from the Town Council. Andy Frazier from the community. And Andy also, for the public's note, chaired our town manager search committee back in, it seems like forever ago, but it's probably only been 8 or 9 months.
Yeah, November. Yep.
So here we are. The charter is 4 years young. The charter form of government is 4 years young. But one of the provisions in chapter Article 9, Section 2 of the charter called for a periodic review of the charter established by a bylaw. And a bylaw was approved by the council on January 14th of this year, establishing the committee in each year ending in 0, and calling for the committee to convene no later than July 1st of any, and asking the committee to do their work and submit a written report to the council on or before March 15th of the following year. In this case, it'll be 2021. So that said, I want to begin by thanking all of you for your willingness to serve. And also to state for the viewing audience, because there is, I've heard comments, random comments here and there over the last few months about the Charter Review Committee reestablishing the former form of government, which was a selectman/town meeting form. That is not the case, so I want to, for our public, to clarify that this is an opportunity for this committee to review all aspects of the charter and have the broad constituency of former authors of the charter, present council members, and active members of the public to lend an objective set of eyes to the charter, what works, what doesn't work, what should we try. So it's a tweaking, if you will, of the document, but in no means is the intent of the bylaw or the charge of the committee to be start from scratch and bring us a new document. And in that respect, I want to state it that way because the first charter I can imagine was a great burden to put together. I'm sure the 9 original members would say they had to seek out, templates from communities that had gone through a charter establishment. This is an opportunity to take this document and in a less burdensome way, edit it, if you will. If I always revert to my education side, it's an edit of a draft of a paper you want to submit, and you tweak it to make sure it's the best working version you can. So that being said, one of the first things this committee needs to do is to elect a chair and a clerk. The chair obviously will set the meeting schedule, and usually you do that before the end of the meeting you're in so that everybody is on board. Right now, the one advantage of Zoom is you can meet without having to leave your home. Or if you are away for a few days, you can still log in with your cell phone and still participate. The chair will set the agenda and run the meeting as I'm doing right now. Most of you, or all of you have, I know, have been in that, in one of your capacities. So you understand the role of the chair. The clerk is, the role of the clerk obviously is to take minutes. They don't have to be word for word, but we do need to have a written record that we can archive in the notes and the records of the town. So I will stop now and take nominations or statements of interest for anyone who would like to be the chair of this committee. Do you want me to play that 30-second Jeopardy tune?
I'd like to nominate Larry Levine to be the chair.
Well, before you go on, I'm honored, but if someone else would like to do it, could I respectfully decline? If someone does not want to do it, I'll accept it. But if someone has an interest in doing it, please holler now. I only hear silence.
I hear crickets, Larry. I hear the gin and tonic.
I will second Phil's motion then.
Motion's been made and seconded. Are there any other nominations to come forward?
Is there compensation?
Never mind.
Yeah, a gin and tonic at 5. Hearing no other nominations, all those in favor of Larry Levine acting as chair of this committee, please. Jeannie, do I need a roll call?
You probably do, since it's
Oh, because it's video, it's Zoom.
And Kathy, I don't know if you want to mention too that I'm a non-voting member since I'm
Yes.
a registered voter of the town. So.
Right, and Jeannie's with us in her capacity as clerk because she needs to be part of this with her connections in her network to the various governments across the state. But she is not a resident of East Long Meadow, and for that reason will be a non-voting but contributing member. And so that said, I need to do a roll call vote. Bill?
Yes.
Phil?
Yes.
Tom?
Aye.
Larry?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes.
Jeff?
Aye.
Ralph?
Yes.
And Andy?
Yes.
So that motion carries 8-0. Mr. Levine is your chair. And now you need a clerk of the committee, an individual to take notes or minutes of the meeting. I also want to mention that though Jeannie is with us as clerk of the court, I just gave you a promotion, Jeannie. As clerk of the council and a non-voting member, I've adopted the practice in this last year with subcommittees that and Jeannie's present on 90% of them, that given how the town hall has to be structured now in terms of 100% of a department's employees can't be present in the office at the same time, as well as the fact that the clerk is now managing 4 elections this year, the state primary on the 1st, and then the big on November 2nd. I don't believe it's fair to lean on our clerk's office to be the clerk for subcommittees. So that said, I respectfully take Jeannie off the hook here because her plate is more than full with absentee ballots, the prospect of early voting as well as absentee ballots, and creating that socially safe distancing for the voting polls. So with all that said, I will entertain a motion for someone to be clerk. I will also entertain the option of people doing it on a rotating basis. It's less onerous for that. I don't suspect that you're going to need hundreds of meetings to achieve what needs to be. Certainly don't have to meet, once a week until March 15th. So if the consensus is that you'd rather share the note taking and each do it at a certain time, a certain meeting, that you can do that as well. And Jeannie and I can also provide you a template of sorts for how to set up your minutes, if that helps, that you can work from each week in a Word document form.
Actually, I like that idea, the rotating,
Mhm.
especially with the template that you mentioned. I would certainly participate and take turns of doing it in that format.
Agree.
I agree with that.
Okay, so that's fair. So someone make I'll just do it. I'll entertain the motion to rotate the task of minute taking on an equitable basis as the committee meets during the next 9 months or so.
So moved.
The motion's been made and seconded. Bill,
Yes.
Phil,
Yes.
Tom?
Yeah.
Larry?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Ralph?
Yes.
And Andy.
Yes.
So that solves that problem. Okay, here is another technical difficulty, if you will. The bylaw states that the committee should be composed of 7 members, each representing a different constituency within the structure of government and the town. Jeannie and I made sure that we had the posting for this committee back in March, was it, Jeannie? It was intended to be in, I want to say, March. It appeared in the reminder. The format that it appeared in was not the actual format that the reminder placed it in, and as a courtesy, they reprinted it for us the way it ought to be at no charge, and we thank them for that. So we ended up having almost a double application period, if you will, and we only had interest from 3 or 4 people at the end of April. So for most of the month of May, Jeannie and I tried to seek out and encourage individuals, if you will, to participate in the process. Long story short, and believe when I say that, no intent to stack the committee, just looking for a cross-section of individuals with integrity that wanted to do some work for the town. So that said, we ended up reaching the number of 7 members, and that was approved probably at our last May meeting of the year, or I confirmed that to the council. A short time later, it was discovered that Phil Adams had in fact applied by email to be considered for the committee. The day that he sent his email, which was March 24th, was the day that town hall was shut down because of the COVID situation and the governor's orders to close all offices across the state. And unfortunately, that email got lost in the shuffle and the closure, and no one being able to be in the office. When we discovered that situation, I made the executive decision to appoint Phil and also the executive decision not to unappoint anybody else. So we right now have 8 people. The problem is we are outside of the bylaw. It has been pointed out to me. I knew that going in. I felt it was better to have more input than not enough input. I'd rather have 8 than only have 3. And so now I'm going to ask for your opinion on a creative way to vote. When it comes time for you to vote, you can deliberate and discuss all day long. But when it comes time to vote, for the true spirit of the bylaw, so that we're not held accountable, 8 months into your work and then, we get called out for it. Is there a creative way to, at any given meeting, when you're all present, to have just 7 of you vote on a measure? If
Yes,
one
ma'am.
of you or 2 of you are absent, it's a non-issue. But is there a way, and I'm open for any ideas. I saw Marilyn's hand first and then Ralph.
Kathy, if you recall, I volunteered to make it 7 because I didn't know about Phil.
And when I appointed you right under the wire there, I didn't know about Phil either. The whole
course.
committee was established.
Would it help if I became an alternate? Can we do that? And I want to sit in on these meetings because I want to learn.
Then would you be okay with stay on the committee but non-voting?
Absolutely. I just want to learn so I can sit in a corner and listen.
No, you'll still be on the same screen contributing. I just want to stay with 7 voters to be
That
as
would be fine.
close to the bylaw.
I'd be happy to volunteer not to vote.
Thank you, Ralph.
I do have another option. If at different times each one of us is going to be a clerk, why not have it that while we're doing the duties of clerk and taking the minutes, that at that meeting we're not able to vote unless there's not enough members, there's less than 7.
That will
I was
work
going
too.
to say, I was going to say the same thing as Ralph.
It's a good idea.
How does the committee feel about, if it's your turn to take notes, you will be the note taker and you can participate in discussions and just not be a voting member that night.
Or do you
I
want?
have another option.
Sure.
I think there's sometimes this, as you know, a chairman or the presiding officer of a committee normally can't bring a motion nor be the second. How about if you, as an option, have the chairman be for purposes of a motion and a second and then a vote, not participate at that point, but if there's a tie, then votes as a tiebreaker. It's like the president of the US Senate. There are 100 senators. If there's ever a tie, the president, who is normally the vice president of the country, breaks the tie. Just the third option.
That is a third option, and they're all very reasonable and I think doable. Jeannie, as clerk, do you feel if we adopt any one of those, we're still inside the bylaw?
I believe you are, because it's only the number of members. I would question, I don't know, Robert's rules, which is really isn't a legal thing. I mean, how to run the meeting. I don't know if it takes a vote of the council for a subcommittee to act in that way, or if you can just do it on your own. That's my only question.
What's the exact wording of the general bylaw? Does it say anything about voting?
The town.
No, shall be comprised.
Right.
Just the numbers.
It's just it's the composition of the committee. The council president will appoint committee members under the authority described in Article 2, Section 3. Each appointment shall expire as of the end of the calendar year in which the committee's report is submitted. It doesn't speak to any of that. The piece of the agenda that we're in now, choosing a clerk and a chair, comes under the language of the council's rules that says all subcommittees must elect a chair and a clerk, follow open meeting laws, and keep the clerk, the town clerk, and the clerk of the council apprised of agendas, and he or she will post them. It's silent on how to vote. Is it fair to think that if it's silent on how to vote, we can go forward with one of these options?
Ec-
I don't feel like we're doing anything that could be regarded as shady, for lack of a better word, right now. I think
I think it's safer if the chair retains a non-voting status, because you could have a clerk volunteer to be a clerk of that meeting if they deliberately don't want to vote for a specific issue that's on the agenda. You know what I mean? Or vice
Yes.
versa. So I'm just trying to anticipate, this is going to be a very visible committee and a very visible, change in the charter. So I think I'd rather have you, that's just my opinion. I think the alternating non-voting just doesn't seem solid to me. That's my gut.
Okay.
But I don't know what everybody else feels.
Through the
Yeah.
chair.
Sure.
So I'd just like to state the bylaw that the town council had to approve to do this. Under number D, it says the committee shall be comprised of 7 registered voters of the town with the following restrictions. So it sounds under that like the committee can only have 7 voters. Well, the committee can only be comprised of 7 members.
So
Right.
that lends itself to one alternate or one, I don't know what you'd call Marilyn if you wanted to do that.
I would agree, like you said, with an alternate, because if one of us is out, then we have the 7th member.
That's probably the cleanest way then,
Yeah.
to do what Marilyn suggests, that she be regarded as an alternate and non-voting, unless in the absence of the full 7, she can then exercise her voting privilege as a stepping in that alternate capacity. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yes.
Yeah,
I think that makes
Yeah.
sense.
that seems to be a widely accepted format, having an alternate.
Right.
I mean, juries do that in the court system. So Marilyn, are you comfortable with that?
Absolutely. And, we're beginning a process, with the exception of Larry, we wouldn't accept him to not be the chairman. But if anyone else for some reason had to pull away from the committee because of another obligation, then I could just slip into that role. So that's fine with me.
So getting back to we're still going to rotate for minutes, but that person's going to still vote and not take a pass that evening.
Right.
Okay. I'll take the minutes for tonight just because they're in front of me and it'll expedite the process. Okay, so I will entertain a motion to make Marilyn Richards the alternate member of the committee with non-voting power, unless called in to serve in the absence of one or more members of the committee.
So moved.
Second.
That motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor? Bill?
Aye.
Yes.
Phil?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Larry?
Yes.
Mary?
I'm not voting.
Oh, that's right. I'm too conditioned to the council meeting. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Ralph
Yes.
and Andy.
Yes.
Okay. So that all passes. The other item I had on the last item I had on the agenda is to set your next meeting date. This is really now, Larry, I think you could take over for this. In a Zoom kind of a world, Ryan is with us right now, but in future meetings, you really need to check with him to make sure that he's got an open slot for
Right.
a Zoom meeting, because he can't
Yep.
conduct simultaneously.
Is he
And-
on, is he on right now?
He's in the background, but he can hear.
I'm here.
Ryan, can you hear us?
I can.
Future meetings, and if anyone has any problem, the off Tuesday when the town council doesn't meet, the first is 5:15 a good time for everyone on that alternate Tuesday?
The only issue would be planning board at 6.
All right. 45 minutes enough for people?
I don't think that's enough time.
Okay. Does anyone have an issue or problem or concern starting at 4:30?
The later in the day for me, the better.
The batter?
It would be, yes, it would be better to start later if possible. If not, I will make myself available.
Why don't we start the first time at 5 and see if we are productive for an hour? And if we aren't, and we think we need, I'd rather not drag this out and have you sacrifice your relaxation time, if we can avoid that. So can we set it, is it too early to post it, Jeannie, for next Tuesday? Is that too early?
No, never too early.
Okay. Can we post it for next Tuesday at 5 o'clock?
Yep. So that's June
30th.
June 30th at
Yep.
5 o'clock. Brian, are you free then?
Yeah, and I'm sending you the Zoom info right now.
Excellent.
Okay. Would everyone send me, send everyone if you can, but your names, your addresses, and your email addresses, or do we already have that, Jeannie?
You should have that on the email that you received from
From Ryan.
Ryan?
Brian.
All right, so that, we just would link it that way?
That's all correct.
Yeah, okay. Okay. And Kathy, you still there?
I am.
Do you want to be involved? Do you want to be involved with the meetings, or how do you want to be
Well,
involved?
as chair ex officio, I can participate non-voting
Okay.
in any or all subcommittees. Just be mindful that the town council, per charter, is required to reorganize and elect a president and a vice president at its first full business meeting in July. So that is on July 14th. And so at least until then, I will be the chair, and I'm happy to join you. So, and I'm good for next Tuesday evening.
Okay. All right. I'd like to conduct everything in a loose manner, but if I'm going astray, stop me. One of the things I would ask you, as well as Jeannie and Marilyn, I know over the last 4 years, there must have been times where you've noticed or people have pointed out some issues within the charter that at least should be reviewed, and perhaps, is there a list of those anywhere that can be provided to our committee members?
If I can jump in, Ralph and I, it just happened, it wasn't planned this way. We have each kept notes of our own in a copy of the charter, of places where we've stumbled, if you will, or we say, you know, if the charter read this, and sometimes it's just a word, sometimes it's elimination of a sentence, but I have a list of 8 or 9 items, and I know Ralph does. And yesterday I asked the council by email to, if they had any thoughts, and I know we have members who take this very seriously, if they have thoughts, to send them in an email to me by June 30th. So I should have anything that, and it will be able to jumpstart your work. or give you a list, a to-do list to check as you go through your work.
Okay. And does everyone have a copy of the charter?
Yep.
Yes.
Anyone who
Online.
doesn't?
Yep.
Okay. So let us be ambitious and say for our next meeting, we should go over the preamble, Article 1, which is definitional, which may have some looking at. But you should also read through Article 2 if you can, just in case we have the bill there. Anyone have any comments if we should bring in anyone? When the Charter Commission first met, we did bring in people not only from different departments within town, different constituents. We met with people from other communities. We also had a consultant for the time. If anyone feels that that's warranted, please speak up or think about it. I don't know how much we want to get involved with that, but I leave that in your good hands.
Well, there's
Bill?
certain,
Oh,
excuse
sorry,
me,
go ahead.
Larry. So there's certain sections that pertain to different things, and I know that Mary McNally probably should be involved in some of the town manager.
Yep.
Because I remember last year, or within the last couple of years, everybody thought that it was a strong town manager and probably too strong, too much power. And you know what I mean by that. There's just too much responsibility. So I would think obviously she'd be brought in for some of that, or asked to review it and be brought in.
Yes, and also there's an entire article on the schools and their governing process, etc. That would be another one. There's also within the charter different sections on different departments that perhaps those department heads, if not having them attend our meetings and speak on those issues, at least receive written comments from them on their particular sections.
And we have a new finance director too, and he'll probably be playing a big role in this.
Okay. Good.
Larry, one of the things that I would like to see is some type of avenue available for the citizens to participate, whether it's some type of mailbox or some type of email address that we can have. We often hear a lot of people out there with suggestions, thoughts, and ideas, but unfortunately we never hear them in a timely fashion. Maybe we can create something so that the people will feel that they want to get involved in this process.
Do you think it's enough to, if Ryan or, I forgot his name already, LCAT can put it on, as well as asking the reminder just to put an informational, do you think that's sufficient where people can send comments? And where should they send comments?
Yeah, Don Mackey's head of LCAT.
Yes, it's senility. I'm sorry.
They're live on Facebook too, and a lot of people watch. And Ryan, can people that watch just throw questions in through the chat aspect of this Zoom? Is that being done? Or I think when we did the council meeting for the rural lane, people were ask questions.
Well, they can't do it through Facebook.
I didn't hear Bill.
I didn't hear either.
They can't do it through Facebook.
No, but they could do it through Zoom.
Yeah, through Zoom, but if you're on the Facebook end of it, all you can do is watch.
Okay.
You can't even see who's watching via Facebook.
So the public would have to go into this link. They'd have to look at the agenda and get the link and go on to be in the Zoom room.
Or could they, through Jeannie, would it be too troublesome if we used the email clerks@eastlongmeadowma.gov if they had input, and then you can filter it to the chair?
I can set up a separate email address that's
Just like you did for the elections for me.
yeah, exactly. And then we can
Yeah.
put who we want in there. So
There
you
you go,
put
yeah.
Jamie in there and Larry in there.
Yeah, Ryan set up a special email for me called elections at East Long Meadow just for scanned absentee ballots.
Yeah, that
So
makes sense.
It's funneled in, so, yeah.
We can set it for digest too. So instead of getting an email every time the email address gets an email, it'll just do like a daily or weekly one too.
Mm.
So you're not going to get bombarded if you get like 10 of them in a day. You only get summary.
I don't know what digest is. What is that?
A summary,
Oh, okay.
a daily summary or weekly
I thought
summary.
it was like a software program.
No.
Okay.
All right, so Ryan, how do we arrange that?
Just come up with a catchy, easy name, and I'll get the thing created for you.
All right, so I can send you a suggestion, or if anyone has any suggestion?
Yep. Absolutely.
Charter review at eastlongmeadowma.gov.
There you go.
Right, you would merely say in the cover, a subcommittee has been formed to review the charter, and if anyone from the public has any suggestions, comments, etc., feel free to send it. Can they send it anonymously?
No. Well, no, not really.
Fire public record, no.
We've
Say
got
it
to
again, Bill.
wrap it up, right, Kathy?
Yeah, it's 5:56.
Okay,
We can
All right.
continue this discussion next week.
Right.
I'll put it on the agenda. Is that okay,
Yeah.
Larry? I've got discussion of the preamble articles 1 and 2, and then we'll talk about public comment. Is that okay for
Okay.
the agenda?
yep,
So I can set it up tomorrow. Okay.
Sounds good.
okay. Any other comments before we adjourn? Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
A second?
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor? The ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. See ya.
Stay well, everyone.
Good evening.